Strange things began to happen as Dora can go to people's houses and steal stuff that she didn't even need. She will fight other children and injure them. In the beautiful closely knitted community of Oyi, where everyone lives as family, there lives a couple named Tola and Connor, who have been married for 6 years without a child. They have cried and prayed, and finally God answered their prayers and Tola got pregnant. They both were very happy to welcome their first child after many years of waiting. They named her Dora. Her birth brought joy to her parents, but not everyone shared their happiness. The night Dora was born, the moon turned a strange red color, and the community feared and whispered that it was a bad omen. 3 months later, Tola and Connor prepared to visit Aya, the community elder who could see into a child's future. Connor hesitated. "What if she tells us something we don't want to hear?" he asked. Tola, determined to protect her daughter, said, "We must know. It's the only way to help her." When they reached Aya's hut, the elder welcomed them with a kind smile. She took Dora into her arms and closed her eyes. After a long silence, she spoke. "This child has a powerful destiny, but there is a shadow on her path. Someone will try to stop her from fulfilling her purpose." Tola's heart tightened. "What can we do?" she asked. Aya shook her head. "Raise her with love and watch carefully. The truth will reveal itself when the time is right." Dora grew up to be a lively, curious child. She loved playing outside and helping her mother with chores. But as she got older, strange things began to happen as Dora can go to people's houses and steal stuff that she didn't even need. She will fight other children and injure them. The once calm and lovely community began to live in fear of seeing Dora. They will hide their kids, and all the kids begin to run away from her. One day, the community's largest fruit tree, that everyone eats, falls during a calm, sunny afternoon while Dora tries to pluck a fruit from it. People began to murmur. "It's the child," they said. "She brings bad luck." Tola tried to ignore the whispers, but then she noticed something unusual on Dora's wrist. A small mark shaped like a star appeared one morning. "Where did this come from?" she asked, but Dora didn't know. Connor quickly wrapped it with a cloth. "No one must see this," he said firmly. Soon, the people started avoiding Dora. Even her closest friend, Bimbo, stopped playing with her. At school she was almost by herself, and she sits by herself. "Mama," Dora asked one evening, "why don't they like me?" Tola held her tightly. "You are special, my child. They don't understand what you carried." But deep down both parents was worried, and it was almost like what Aya said was coming to pass. They keep praying for a change and for people to start loving their daughter. One quiet night, there was a knock on the door. When Connor opened it, a man stood outside, dressed in a simple robe. His name was Femi, and he said he was a traveler who knew about curses and ancient traditions. "I know about the mark on your daughter's wrist," he said, stepping inside. Tola and Connor exchanged worried glances. "What do you mean?" Connor asked. Femi explained, "The mark is a sign of a curse. Someone has tied your daughter's destiny to misfortune. She was meant for greatness, but this curse is meant to destroy her future." "Who would do such a thing?" Tola asked, her voice trembling. Femi replied, "Someone close to you. Someone who is jealous or afraid of her potential." "What can we do?" Connor asked. Femi told them about a place called the Grove of Light, hidden deep in the forest. "If you go there, you may find answers. But the journey will test your courage." The next morning, Tola, Connor, and Dora followed Femi to a faraway village, into the forest. The trees were tall and thick, their branches blocking the sunlight. Dora held her mother's hand tightly. That night, they stopped to rest by a stream. Everyone fell asleep except Dora. She woke up to a soft voice calling her name. "Dora, come closer," it whispered. She stood up and walked toward the stream, her steps slow and dreamy. But before she could go far, Tola woke up. "Dora," she shouted, rushing to grab her. "What are you doing?" Tola asked, holding her close. "I heard someone calling me," Dora said. Femi frowned. "Do not follow voices in the forest," he warned. "They are tricks meant to lead you astray." The family continued the journey the next day, but Dora began to feel uneasy. Shadows seemed to move behind the trees, and faint whispers followed them wherever they went. After days of traveling, they finally reached the Grove of Light. It was a magical place, filled with glowing flowers and soft golden light. At the center stood a giant tree, with silver leaves that shimmered like stars. Femi knelt in front of the tree and began to pray. The ground shook lightly, and a glowing figure appeared from the tree. It had no face, but its voice was calm and powerful. "Why have you come?" it asked. Tola stepped forward. "Our daughter is cursed," she said. "We want to break it." The spirit looked at Dora. "The curse was placed by someone close to you," it said. "To break it, You must find the person who cast it and make them confess. Only then will her destiny be free. But how will we find them? Connell asked. The spirit replied, the truth will come to you. Be patient, but stay alert. The one who caused her will reveal themselves when the time is right. Meanwhile at home, Connell has a stepsister called Remy who lives 4 houses away from Connell's house, and she also had children growing up. She often comes to visit Connell, but since the birth of Dora, she has been withdrawn, and so also her children. She was the only one Connell could think about as someone close to them. Other siblings were far away from them. The family returned from the Grove of Light with a mix of hope and fear. Tola couldn't stop thinking about the spirit's words, someone close to you. Who could it be? The community noticed their return but kept their distance, as usual. One afternoon, Dora was outside playing near the house, when her aunt, Remy, walked by. Remy glanced at Dora's wrist and froze. What's that on her hand? She asked sharply. Tola stepped out quickly and pulled Dora inside. It's nothing, she said, trying to sound calm. But Remy's eyes narrowed. You can't hide everything forever, she said, before walking away. Later that evening, Femi sat with Tola and Connell. The one who caused Dora is starting to panic, he said. They are afraid the truth will come out. Watch for unusual behavior. Connell clenched his fists. Whoever did this, they will not get away with it. One evening, as the family sat down to dinner, Dora suddenly dropped her spoon. She clutched her wrist and cried out, Mama, it's burning. Tola rushed to her side and unwrapped the cloth around her wrist. The mark was glowing brighter than ever. Femi stared at it closely. This is a sign, he said. The curse is reacting. The one who cast it must be nearby. The next morning, Femi asked Tola and Connell to gather the community in the square. He stood before them and said, someone in this community has caused this child. If the truth doesn't come out, the curse will spread. The crowd gasped. What do you mean, spread? Someone asked. Femi explained, curses tied to jealousy always grow. If it isn't stopped, it will harm not just Dora, but everyone connected to her. The community murmured nervously. A few glanced at Remy, who stood quietly at the back, avoiding everyone's eyes. That night, Tola couldn't sleep. She sat by the fire, her thoughts racing. Suddenly, there was a soft knock at the door. When she opened it, she found Remy standing there. Tola, Remy whispered, I need to talk to you. Tola stepped aside, letting her in. What is it? She asked. Remy looked nervous. I didn't mean for it to go this far, she began. When Dora was born, everyone was so happy. I was jealous. My own children never had the kind of attention and prophecy that she gets. Tola's heart sank. What did you do, Remy? She asked, her voice shaking. I went to a priest, Remy confessed. I asked him to make her life difficult, to make people doubt her. I didn't think it would be this bad. Before Tola could respond, Connor entered the room. He had heard everything. You caused our child because of jealousy, he asked, his voice rising with anger. Remy fell to her knees, crying, I'm sorry, brother. Please forgive me. I'll do anything to fix it. The next morning, Femi and the family brought Remy to the community square. The community gathered, curious about the commotion. Femi stepped forward and said, the truth has come out. Remy is the one who caused Dora. The crowd gasped. Remy bowed her head in shame. I was jealous, she admitted. I made a terrible mistake. Please forgive me. Femi called for the village elder, Aya, to join them. Together, they led a prayer to break the curse. Aya held Dora's wrist and chanted softly while Femi guided the villagers in a loud, powerful prayer. The mark on Dora's wrist began to fade, and a warm light surrounded her. Dora's eyes filled with tears. Mama, it doesn't hurt anymore, she said, smiling. The community cheered, but Aya raised her hand to quiet them. Let this be a lesson, she said. Jealousy destroys not just others, but also the one who feels it. Remy has asked for forgiveness, but she must also make things right. The days after the curse was broken were peaceful. The community began to treat Dora with kindness, and the whispers of fear disappeared. One day, Femi prepared to leave the village. Your family is strong, he told Tola and Connell. Dora's future is bright now. She will do great things. Thank you for everything, Tola said, tears in her eyes. We wouldn't have made it without you. Dora hugged Femi tightly. Will I ever see you again? She asked. Femi smiled. Maybe one day, when you are ready to take on your destiny. As the sun rose over Oli, Dora stood outside her home, watching the light spread across the community. For the first time, she felt free. Her family was safe, her future was hers, and she was ready to face whatever came next. The mark of destiny had faded, but the lessons it brought would remain forever.